Hi, everybody. Recruiting Animal here on November 23rd, 2022, the day before American Thanksgiving. There's three of us here, one disembodied. That's the American, okay? Gavin and me, we're not celebrating Thanksgiving. There's David Marr. He's embodied all of a sudden. He's celebrating Thanksgiving. He says this is their big drinking day, the day before Thanksgiving. That's what he told me, okay? Maybe that was a secret. I didn't know. Okay. Gavin Johnson. How do you spell your name? Johnston.
That's
Doesn't really matter because I remember his fantastic domain name, everythingaboutrecruitment.com. Okay. He is foolish. He didn't buy everything about recruiting. Okay. He doesn't care about the American market, I guess. He's over in Europe. Okay. But everything about recruitment.com. He is a recruiter, but also a recruiting trainer. And as I told him last week, I like a lot of the comments he publishes on my Facebook group. Speaking of which, let me complain. You know, people post stuff on the Facebook group. And then there's lots of comments sometimes about other recruiters saying, this is how I handle that issue. Okay. And I think that's gold. I mean, you're working by yourself, let's say, as a solo recruiter, and you get to see what other people do on some specific issue. And this one was time management. Okay. And this recruiter said, she said, look, I'll turn somersaults to accommodate a candidate for an interview time during the week. Okay. But Sunday is my family time. No Sundays. So I cut that out as a JPEG. I cut it out, the exact picture of her comment, which I always do. Okay. I put it ahead. I reposted it this week or last week. And but I put a title on it, Never on Sunday. Okay. That was a famous song in 1960. I guess most people don't get it. Okay. It's a you can kiss me on a Monday. Anyway, it's a beautiful song. It's great. But, you know, I thought it was a bit witty, and I changed the lyrics to you can call me on a Monday. And anyway, so she responds in the comments, why are you calling me out? How dare you? Okay. It's like a regular Greta Thunberg. How dare you? She didn't say that, but that was the tone. Okay. She said, if you're going to take issue with me, why not do it in private? I said, I didn't disagree with anything you said. I thought it was a good idea. Why shouldn't you have one day for your family? Okay. But why are they always attacking me? I don't get it. Okay. You should be happy that I feature your comment. That I think it's worthwhile for other people to see and discuss. You published it on public media, social media. What do you want from me?
And to be fair, Animal, you know what? They're not attacking you. They're attacking the person who might maybe have said something about their post and they're not too sure what was actually meant. Okay. And they feel a bit worried, you know.
Some people
I wouldn't
get
worry
scared
about it. It's like recruiters, man. Never take it personally.
Some people get scared of the spotlight. I didn't introduce David M Marr, okay, the American guy. He doesn't have a URL domain name. Foolish. He should have one as well, and pointed to his LinkedIn. Okay. But he's a corporate recruiter. It's got a nice voice. I'm sure it's a good phone voice as well. Okay. And let me see what I want. I've got tons of things to discuss, but I made this one up myself. Okay. What if you recruit somebody and a good candidate, then you find out that the spouse works for the competitor of your client? I'll ask Gavin first. What would you do? Would you knock out the candidate? Would you tell the client?
Animal, you're breaking up. Is it your side or is it my side?
Must be me.
Yeah.
David and Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, must be Gavin then. David and Mark, do you want to answer that question then?
Sure. I believe I actually may have had a situation like that when I used to recruit for salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
And it was for healthcare organizations like insurance companies. And the husband worked for one company and the wife worked for was the prospect that we were trying to recruit from the competition. So I think it's more common than you think. I wouldn't say there's any conflict of interest. I would actually say that's advantageous because that household knows that space really well.
Okay, Gavin, you can't hear me, right? You can't hear me, right?
You're back now. I'm just closing everything here just to make sure that there's nothing slowing down the machine.
Yeah,
so
it's you, by the way. It's you. Okay, you recruit a great candidate and you find out, David M. Marr gave his opinion already. You find out that the spouse, husband or wife, works for a competitor, for a direct competitor for your client. Would you knock out the candidate on that basis, or would you tell the client?
I definitely wouldn't knock out, except if you're in very weird specific situations where there could be like industrial espionage or something, but I would warn the client, yeah.
You would, eh? Okay. Would you feel obligated to do so, or just because you're a great guy?
Well, I don't dare say it, I'm a great guy, but morally I do feel obliged, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. Okay, but I don't think I'm a wise person, so I would never trust my. Okay, here's something. This comes up a lot. This guy said, "Can we shop a resume around?" He said, "We interviewed a candidate for a specific job. Could we send his resume out for another job without speaking to him?" For me, it's an obvious answer, but obviously lots of people don't. Gavin, do you have something to say about that?
You should definitely shop him around, but with their permission. You can't send somebody's CV around without having their permission. That's an absolute no-go.
Why not?
Because it's their intellectual property. It is their branding on the job market. If you're going to be sending out, I'll tell you a story of what I had. I was supplying a large company in the south of France, and I send their CV in direct to the end client. And the hiring manager says, "But we've received this CV." I'm like, "Really?" So I call the candidate saying, "Apparently your CV is there already." And the client and the candidate says, "No way, I haven't given any permission." What had happened? They'd given it to a recruitment company who'd given it to a consultancy, and the consultancy hadn't said that actually it wasn't for them, but for the same client. So what does the client say? "Look, it's too complicated to deal with both of you. I'm just going to eliminate that candidate from the whole process." Of course, the candidate is furious. Then the consultancy gets furious, even though they were the ones that weren't transparent. They were the ones that made that this candidate didn't know where his CV was. And in the end, because it was a really good candidate, the client said, "Okay," and I placed this guy. But I just find it so dodgy to mess around with people's CV, because it's just
Okay,
so
so
important to have
that consultancy, okay, a term we wouldn't use here. Okay, they were the ones who did exactly what this guy wanted to do. They were in touch with the candidate, but they sent his resume out without telling him first to this company. And then the client chose you over the consultancy, even though they got the resume from him. And they were in touch
And they
with.
got it from me. It came out like that, like this. It came through both channels, through me and through the consultancy.
Yeah, okay, but they chose you.
Yeah, because I was first.
Why? No, you weren't
'Cause I was
first. You
first.
said the other one was first. They said, "We have this already." You told us a second ago.
Ah, no, sorry. The client received it first, but the chronology was actually that the candidate had not given the it was complicated because actually the resume they
the
got.
show. Okay, I'll explain it.
No, the problem was that the resume was actually an old one, and so they'd received the CV like a long time before, and so that's why how they got it. But for that specific job, they received it again, but I was the first to send it in.
You know, you've got a good client, because lots of people would try to stiff you. Okay, that's what I say. David M. Marr, you're not an external recruiter. Do you have a comment on that? You're free to say something if you want.
Yeah, when I've seen this issue from both sides, being internal and an agency. In America, at least, when you're placing contractors, there's usually a clause where some companies or vendor management systems would have us have to get signed permission from the candidate that we could represent them before we submit them.
Yeah.
And that was usually due to the structure where.
Okay, but was it okay? The thing is, if they give you a general, do they give you a general permission to send them their resume someplace without telling you? Without
No,
telling?
I think it's personally, I don't agree with, and I don't think it's unethical to send a candidate's resume along.
Boy, we've dragged this one out, you know. Hey, everybody, I thought it would be a nice clean discussion. Gavin has lost his memory. It was all fumbled for a while, just like his auditory system. Yeah, he didn't do a good job. Okay, so sorry, but here's something I will go to. Everybody in my Facebook group, almost everybody, loves Calendly. Okay, there's no fuss setting up. It's a scheduling software of some sort. You send your calendar to the candidate. She can see all of your open times. She doesn't have to quibble with you. She picks her time, signs herself in. Everybody thinks it's great. And then Gavin surprised me and says, that's not good. It's not good to over automate, and that's over automation. Recruiting is based on building relationships, like everybody always says. Okay. And here they're getting rid of the opportunity to be in touch with the candidate. I thought that was an interesting argument. I'll pass it over to him. Go ahead. You want to talk about that?
Well, it's quite simple. Any single touch point you've got, you're going to talk part of the time specifically about, for example, organizing an interview, for example, about a job, whatever it is. But then around that, you're going to have moments where you're going to get to know the person better. And very important, they are going to get to know you better. They're going to see your professionalism. They're going to see you're human. They're going to see that you care about them and really are out there to get them that job. And those touch points are absolutely crucial. If they're just dealing with an email coming in or going out, that might have gone to their spam, by the way, you're not actually giving them any kind of a special experience in the whole process.
Yeah, but setting up interviews, it's more like nagging somebody lots of times. You have to, go back and forth, I don't know. This way they just see the big picture right off the bat, and they pick the time.
It shouldn't take that many times. I mean, realistically, you ask for a number of different times and brackets when they're available, and that should be enough. But you've got one touch when you call them, then you go to the client, extra touch for the client, and then once you got confirmation, either you use the opportunity to go back to the candidate for a second time, even though often that's not necessary, you just send a mail. But sometimes you say, yeah, I just want to confirm, and then you check something else. For example, the whole story now about ghosting. Imagine you spoke to the candidate this morning. They might have been approached by 2 other recruiters. And then you get the feedback from the client, and then you call them again that evening, and the interview's the next day. You can use that opportunity again to brief the candidate, to make sure nothing else has come in the meantime that might mean that they disappear, that they haven't warned their boss yet, and that they're already working on a counter offer. All this thing is getting information, building that relationship, ABC, closing the candidate into this role.
Okay, I found it interesting. I will say, I'll note that apparently some candidates don't like scheduling software. They feel like you're too cold. But I think they're the rare one. David M Marr, do you have a comment?
I don't.
Okay. Just say, recruiting animal, I'm too drunk to comment. Okay, it's the day before Thanksgiving.
Already.
I'm on Gavin's side. This
Hey,
is Iwan
Ivan,
again. Yes,
another guy. who
100%
can't-
agree. 100% agree with Gavin, because this is why we have such a this is why people don't, I think, perform well in this job, because they see something like Calendly and they only see the upside. They're like, oh great, I have less work, amazing. But then there's a million cases where it doesn't actually help at all, or even I had it 3 times with the same client, with the same role within 1 month, where Calendly or another similar app, I don't remember which one, showed the candidate the time zone of Zurich, and the person was in London. So what happened was 10 people were waiting for the interview because it was a rather important role. And literally, I'm not kidding, 10 people in the Google Meet, and the candidate was late. Why? Because the candidate got another time zone scheduled. This would not have happened if somebody a human would have scheduled the call.
Yeah,
so what
I
happens, the
don't
candidate...
think about Europe. Yeah, I can see.
Yeah,
That's
will happen in the US as well, because you all have different time zones too. So what happened? Well, the candidate is shocked because they think they did something wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. They just the app didn't work properly, or displayed the time zone in font size 7 on the top left bottom, yeah, and like they think they did something wrong, and of course they appear to the interview where 10 people are pissed off, and this is the worst possible start for the interview round, which was quite important. And this happened again, I kid you not.
Okay, but
3
hold on,
times
that's
in
a
row.
different issue. What about what Gavin
It's not
was
a different
talking?
issue.
Oh,
If
yes,
you-
it is. Oh, yes, it is. Just listen to me and I'll explain it. Gavin is not talking about the technical failures of the software. He's saying that, you know, even if it was working perfectly, why blow an opportunity to stay in touch with the candidate and the
Yes,
client?
I agree with everything he said, because it is absolutely correct. And I'm adding another point about the thing failing on top of that.
Okay, well, just make that clear. Even though you didn't express yourself well, I'm going to do an ad for you. This guy, okay, Ivan, or Iwan, I'll say Ivan Gulenko in Switzerland, he's an IT recruiter, and he's so smart that he created his own applicant tracking system. It's called Klang, KLANG.SO, and go check it out, okay? Lots of people on this show have checked it out, and they like it. They certainly say it's worth taking a look at, and he's always improving it, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else you want to say, Ivan? Not about that though. We've talked that. Okay.
Yeah, just like people should think with their brain and always think, okay, how can how can I use any opportunity to like strengthen the relationships or find out if there are any possibilities of things go wrong? And because people are super lazy, like people don't do it. I do it every damn day, the whole day. I'm thinking, okay, I write like a text and then I'm like, no, I should actually call the person. And then I find out like 5 different new things, because as our friend, the food industry recruiter, Ernie, said, they will not text you everything, but they will tell you all the context in a live conversation, right? So.
Okay. What about a candidate? And I saw this for real, okay? Don't think I'm making it up. This woman had a banner on her blog. It says, I'm a bad bitch and I've got bad anxiety. Would that turn you off, Gavin? Would you want to deal with her as a candidate?
Let's put it this way. There'll definitely be some alarm bells going off, but you've got to see the context.
She's a psychologist.
Oh, well, then maybe not.
Anybody else? Anybody else? I'm a bad bitch and I got bad anxiety.
I think it's kind of comical. I think it's marketing, basically.
Okay,
I
you
wouldn't
find it
take
witty.
serious.
It's for you witty. Okay, and Ivan's English is his second language. You want to comment on that, Ivan?
No.
Okay. Okay, here's Gavin. Okay, Gavin says, okay, no, I don't like that one. What was the big thing that I liked today? Oh, that was the one. Gavin's got another one. Okay, he says there's only 10%. This is the title of this section is called Cream of the Crop. Okay, Gavin says there's only 10 or 15% of candidates who are the best. Okay, but all recruiters, you go to their website, we deal with top talent, only the best, blah, blah, blah. He said, why are you limiting yourself, at least in theory, to a select few of people? The best agencies talk to all the candidates in their market. Every single candidate should be a brand ambassador, I assume, for the recruiter. I'll have him fill that in a second. He said, also, everyone is a source of information, and just about every single one is placeable somewhere, sometime. Gavin?
Absolutely. I mean, it's part of my whole approach to how to bill over $1 million a year, which is become #1 recruiter in your niche, which means that that niche is small enough that you can know everybody in it, which means there are no, oh, I'm in the top 10%. You've got 100%. You've got all the skills in there. And funnily enough, you've got all the clients also, and there's matches. Some people will pay for the top 10%. So other organizations don't have the money, and they'll take people maybe a bit more who are more plodders. And that's how you match everybody up. And by knowing this group of people, you're one, getting much more information because you know everything about the whole ecosystem. But 2, you're actually helping these people out much more. So you're placing more of them. And so it increases their role as ambassadors of you as a recruiter. On the client side, you're filling more roles.
Okay, but
and
hold on.
therefore
What, but
you've
what
got
about
more
these
people
recruiters?
promoting
What
it
about,
also.
when restaurants put up best roast beef in town, legally it's called puffery, mere puffery. You can't take someone to court for advertising they've got the best roast beef when there's really no proof. Okay, but what about the recruiters who say, okay, you know what, I'm doing exactly what you do. I talk to everybody, but I want to impress the candidates about, well, what a genius, or, only the best people talk to me, right? I deal with the Tom Cruises of my industry. That's what they're saying. I'm the best because I deal with the best. Would you say, as an advertising or marketing technique, it's got some substance, or just forget about it altogether?
He would say bollocks.
Yeah, I would say bollocks. I would say it turns me off. Sorry, it turns me off because I'm not impressed. And actually, one question, this is maybe the more DEI question, but wouldn't it turn women off?
Why?
Because I just don't think that
You don't have to say Tom Cruise, okay? That was just my example.
No, not Tom Cruise. No, that kind of messaging as we only place the best.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. With you look at those products like Textio, women are scared of all kinds of any word that expresses some kind of strength. Okay, women are scared. I don't believe that for a second. There's plenty of women in recruiting that I know well who are much more alpha than I am. Okay, they can handle any kind of tough stuff and tough negotiations, and they're not scared by any of that stuff. Anybody else want to comment on this about I only deal with the best? Anybody?
Well, I think on the agency side, you have to. There's tiers of clients and there's tiers of candidates, right? And most organizations, whether you're in-house or external, most companies don't hire, you're not going to hire a whole company full of, A players. Think like the Michael Jordans of the world. You're going to hire, a handful of Michael Jordans, and then you're going to have the support team, which is made up of lots of B's and C's, or second and third tier level. That's
Get to the point.
work.
Get to the point. I understand. Talk faster.
So my point is that by what Gavin's saying, that I agree that if you have a specific focus niche, it allows you to service up your clients and candidates better.
Okay, so you're saying it's ridiculous to say I only deal with top talent, because not every company, even a company that needs top talent, doesn't only need top talent. Okay, although,
Correct.
some of those FANG companies, they only want the best. That's my impression. I might be wrong. I don't know.
Look what's happened to them right now.
Okay, but I'll get to Ivan in a second. Just before I forget, I won't mention any names, but one of the pillars in the past, the pillars of this show, he said many times on the show that he's made millions of dollars placing mediocre people over the last 30 years. Okay, so, and he's very successful. And I think his term was mediocre. That's what he meant. Okay, you don't need to place. And in fact, you're not dealing with the top rated companies lots of times, the big brands. The recruiters are dealing with the companies that don't have the brands that are going to attract people. That's why they need the recruiters to go out there and get them. And so those mediocre companies, they don't always need the leading edge candidates. Is that right, everybody? Am I right?
Yes.
Ivan, do you want to say anything? Ivan, I'm giving you a chance. Do you want to say anything about that? Gone? Is he still here? Okay. He doesn't have to. Okay. Okay. Let me see. What about this? I was reading an article about Goldie Hawn. And do you know who Goldie Hawn is, Gavin, over there? Gavin's frozen, right? Can anybody else hear me still?
Yes, on Golden Pond.
No, that was Jane Fonda. Okay. I didn't know. I don't think Goldie Hawn is in that. Anyway, Goldie Hawn, she was 19 years old. She was spotted by a talent agent, about who she thought it was a talent agent, was really a pimp. Sent her to Al Cap to apply for a job. That's the guy who used to run Little Abner. Okay, famous guy. And he exposed himself once she got to his apartment, his rich apartment. He exposed himself. He wanted her to have sex with him, right? So she left. And the thing is, that really turns my stomach and makes me angry. And I keep, since the Me Too movement started, I keep hearing about these kinds of things. I'm wondering, does anybody ever ask a company if they've ever had any sexual harassment issues and how they've handled them? Would that turn off a client if you brought that up, or if a candidate brought that up? Anybody got a comment on that? No? Am I the only one who is concerned about it? No?
I've had it the other way around, where it was a candidate that was sexually harassing somebody at the clients.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, and the candidate was a man.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's only men who sexually harass, but anyway, okay, that's a concern of mine. Sorry, everybody, if it's so ridiculous. Okay. Anybody got an issue? Anybody? No? Okay. Okay. What about this one? Ivan had an issue. He said he doesn't like LinkedIn automation because it's going to, break the LinkedIn terms of service, and you're going to get go to LinkedIn jail. I share that fear. Okay, Rich Rosen doesn't, and somebody agreed with him named Robin. She said, I have been dinged by LinkedIn a number of times. I guess she got a warning, and that's no fun. So I stay away. Ivan, I agree with you. Ivan, do you want to take that up? No? He's gone. Anybody else want to talk about LinkedIn automation? Do you use any, Gavin?
No, but there's been a new ruling, hasn't there? Just about, what was it, 3 weeks ago? And they actually gave LinkedIn, because originally it was this one company, and there was a ruling in March, and they gave the company came out top of that, and then now it went up to, like, not Supreme Court, but pretty high up, and actually LinkedIn has won. So I'm expecting them to clamp down in the coming months.
Well, I mean, they've had this rule in place for years. In case somebody doesn't know what we're talking about, stuff like Duck Soup or different tools allow you to contact, hundreds of people at the same time. It's like a mass mail kind of. And Richie Rich, super rich, who makes $1 million a year, and I believe him, he uses them. He said, supposedly, I don't send out thousands of emails. I keep it modest, and I have never get caught. Okay. What about this? Does anybody like the term hardcore culture? I kind of like it. Okay. And you know who uses it? Elon Musk. He was recruiting lawyers, and he said he wants hardcore street fighters, right? And he also recently he used it. He said hardcore for him means people willing to work long hours at high intensity. It's a workplace where only the most exceptional performance is accepted, and a culture in which midnight emails are just going to be fine. Will that turn people off? I mean, don't forget, this is Elon Musk. He's top of the heap. He's cream of the crop.
Yeah, that's like not what the current workforce wants at all. I can tell you that 100%.
Okay, so if you had to
Life work
recruit
balance, if a company still thinks it's like has that mentality, you're going to lose a drastic number of your workforce. People have options now, and with families starting, the younger generations want life work balance. And if you can't work remotely, if you are expecting them to work 60 hours a week and donate their years of life, they're not going to do it.
Okay, so if you had a hiring manager say, David, I want you to tell people this is a hardcore culture, you'd say, I'm not working this job, or you better smarten up. Would you do that? One of those two options?
I would give examples and provide specific context for that manager to help educate them. If the whole company culture was that way, and that was what they expected, I probably wouldn't waste my time.
But isn't that a catchy term? Hardcore culture. I love it. Anybody else? No? Anybody? No?
Yeah, it's of course it's easy for management if you've got people willing to work in that kind of environment, because the billing rates for the same amount of people is much higher, or the productivity is much higher. But the reality is, it's like David says, we've gone beyond that now. Now, I wouldn't refuse to work on a job like that. But I would say to the hiring manager, I'd be very clear that they're talking about a very small percentage of people who would be interested in something like this. And then I'll be quite clear with the candidate also and say that this is the environment that they want.
The only way that somebody might be willing to work that kind of hours is if the pay was like way above market rate.
Okay, so no
Yeah,
recruiter should be.
or youngsters coming up and wanting to have like a PwC, an Accenture, Deloitte badge on their CV.
Okay, because yeah, some of those companies have always worked people absurd hours, especially the accounting firms. But so then your advice to everybody, every recruiter would be, don't let a hiring manager walk all over you with this kind. First of all, you don't usually get that kind of clear statement about culture. I mean, you say, what kind of culture? They give you some vague thing. It doesn't mean anything. This means something at least. Okay. So thanks for making it so clear, hiring manager. But I'm going to tell you, you're full of crap. So every recruiter should push back on that. And if the hiring manager doesn't like it, what should the recruiter do? Anybody?
Be
Get
very, very
real.
clear.
I'm walking out. I'm not working with you on this. You don't understand the market today. Is that what the recruiter should say?
Yeah.
Either
Yes.
that or
However,
either
if you
that or
really insist, I will go and find, but your chance of finding a person is very, very small. You're going to pay me a retainer because I'm not starting working on
Okay,
this. without some money
there's
on the table.
hard
and
search.
or get a high billing rate, like or
But that I get in any case.
Okay. This guy said that he was an operations manager in the healthcare field. He was recruited by a recruiter to took a look at an operations manager job, a good one, in the mental health field. It's kind of related, but not directly. So the senior regional operations manager was interviewing him on Zoom, and he was warned by the recruiter. Do you have to go? You can go if you have to.
I'm breaking up again.
No, I can hear you fine. Okay, so the candidate was warned by the recruiter, you have to look really good and businesslike on the Zoom. Okay, the hiring manager shows up in a t-shirt. Okay, he didn't like that. I don't know what. Okay, and then the hiring manager said she wants him to walk her through what he would imagine would be his day in the new job. He said, I've never worked in that job before. How do I know what my day is going to look like? And that made me think there's people who tell you should be able to tell a company you've got a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Don't they tell candidates that? I'm wondering. So this guy didn't like the fact that she came in a t-shirt, and he didn't like the question. Were both of those things improper? Anybody got a comment? No?
I think
It's
the
okay.
second bit David should answer because he's an internal recruiter. On the first bit about the dress code, yeah, I wouldn't get hooked up on it. But as an internal recruiter, they should have made sure that the communication was clear between the hiring manager and themselves, and then the message to the candidate was correct.
About what? The dress code?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe she wanted him to be dressed up, but the hiring manager it doesn't have the responsibility.
But then the message needs to be clear. You look good, but I can't guarantee that the hiring manager will look good.
Okay, so that's actually, is that something we should always think of presenting to the candidate? Hey, I want you to dress this way. It's always best to look businesslike. Don't worry about what the other side looks like. That's not a concern to you. Okay, is that fair?
in the medical field, typically there's a dress code of some sort, whether it's like nurse gear. I can't think what it's called. A smock. I think it's called
scrubs.
Scrubs. There you go. Thank you. Like scrubs, right? That could be the attire, but like in the tech space, it's very common for even CEOs to wear like t-shirts and jeans and maybe a sports coat.
Okay, and if the recruiter tells the candidate you dress up, look businesslike, that could actually turn off the hiring manager. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, but see, I don't think it's all. I think there's a lot of data points that that the process needs to analyze, and dress code and appearance and how they carry themselves and personality and attitude and skill sets and willingness to, hire for attitude, train for aptitude, or hire for aptitude. I forgot the saying, but
don't use it if you don't know it. Okay, it makes you look dumb.
That's because I'm an animal.
He's the animal.
Okay, look, here's something else. This is primarily, I think, for corporate recruiters, but if you have regular clients, like Gavin does, he seems to deal with the same people all the time or quite often. Do you ever do, I've never heard of this before, post-hire debriefs with the hiring manager? You say, what went right? And what do we want to change in the future? For instance, maybe you want a panel interview instead of a series of individual interviews, something like that. I've never done a debrief. Does anybody else do that as a matter of course?
Yeah, in the tech world, it's very common where you do a debrief. And the reason they do it,
A hiring process debrief on every search.
correct. Yeah, but it's like, let's say that you're in tech, right? They use a lot of like software engineers as an example. So they're going to be hiring, hundreds or thousands of software engineers. So the debrief process is designed to make sure that all the data points that are important, that have been determined at the foundational level before the hiring happens, of what they need in those engineers, is built into a logical process that works. And they'll evolve it over time. Like at some point, the company's going to get to the point where the volume of interviewing that happens is taking away from productivity of the engineers themselves. So they usually will incorporate some other aspects into that.
Yeah,
but
it's really hard to understand what you're saying. You didn't strike out on this exactly like you did on the answer before, but think about it, okay? Anybody else want to talk about it? I kind of like it if you're dealing with the same people all the time, but
it's very advantageous and a useful tool to do.
okay,
To
fine.
be fair, Animal, I think if you're in a recruitment agency, you should do it because it brings so much value. One, you understand much better what the process is, but two, the client goes, hold on a minute, nobody's ever asked me to do this. This is amazing. He really cares about the whole thing. He really wants to offer me a better service. But often agency recruiters will think, well, this is going to take me half an hour. I'm going to set the whole thing up. I want to be out there getting, billing. So there's pros and there's cons.
Okay. You know what? Here's something that kind of mystifies me. I've seen a number of people say recently they get better results on their outreach, their recruiting messaging with 300 characters or less. The shorter, the better. I see other people say they research the candidate, they try to find out something. They take a long time to craft an email, which means write an email. Okay. Yeah, I hate it when people use this kind of faddish bafflegab. So they craft their email. So here's somebody who crafts a long email to impress the candidate that I know all about you and I cherish what you've done. And somebody else sends out a 300 character, like essentially a tweet, which is, and they both preach that their way works. Okay. Anybody want to have a take on that? Short is better, long is better. What's the story?
I think shorter is better because most emails are being consumed through smartphones.
Yeah.
And smartphones have, smaller screens than say your workstation or laptop or on your monitor. So because of that, some of the tools that we use will give us like ideas of when, like what time a candidate opens your email, how many times do they review it, how many times they click the links. So it gives you a lot of analytics behind the scenes. And you can see what device, like where it was open, like what operating system, so you can tell when it's open, let's say from their iPhone.
Hold on a second. These same people who you say have trouble reading a long email, they read all their newspaper articles and media on their phones as well. Okay. So if they can read a long article in the New York
Times. Very good question, because how many actually do read the long media? You'll probably find that a lot of them, they just watch little videos that are summaries. And I think David's right. People their attention span is going down. So short messages are better.
Yeah, short videos are actually what I would say is kind of the up and coming, if not already preferred way of reaching out to candidates, because there is software where you can like record a small video and basically
Loom, for instance, and Rich said he's getting into those videos, didn't he?
Yeah, it works. It does work. You will see a huge increase.
Really? Okay, but what about, actually, I got a few things about Rich. He didn't show up today, but I wanted to take him to task on it. And he said that these open rates that you're, bragging about, David, he said that he called them vanity stats. He said, it's great to know if someone opened your email 6 times, but the reply is the only statistic that really matters. And just in case somebody doesn't know,
No, I would say that is
don't cut
accurate.
me off. I'm setting up. People know what you're talking about. Some people don't know it, but you can send out an email that tells you when someone looks at it. It sends you a message back that it's been viewed and how many times it's been viewed. Dave was just talking about that a minute ago. He was saying that's great, but Super Rich said that's a meaningless statistic. Go ahead, Dave, now.
So it's not the most important statistic. It's just one of the ones that helps you know how successful your campaign is that you launched. But he is correct that the response rate is ultimately the most important. But a response could be, "Hey, thanks, but timing's not good," or something like that. So I get a lot of those kind of responses, but the ones that are actually interested and ready to go now is basically boils down to timing, right? So with tech, there's a lot of information that candidates want to know up front before they'll even consider.
You're losing me. Okay. I'm going to, before we go to Gavin, if he wants to say something, I've got an opinion. Candidate ID. Okay. They base, if in case maybe you don't know what it is, but they base their whole business on how many times the person will click on stuff. If someone clicks on your message 6 times, I think that's good to know. I mean, you've got someone who might not be ready, but you can push them over the cliff. That's someone you want to phone, okay? If they look at your email 6 times, it's time to call that guy. Would anybody disagree with me? I dare you, okay? Go ahead. Anybody?
I think Iwan disagrees.
Ivan, he's not listening, okay? Ivan.
That's why I picked him.
What about you, Gavin? Do you use email? Do you look at the clicks or the number opens?
You know what? I absolutely with. I read a lot of these posts that you mentioned, and I'm always amazed that agency recruiters, especially in agencies where there's less than, let's say, 10 employees, they've got a time to even look at this. You know, it takes a lot of time to write a beautiful message, have the tools set up so that you can get all the analytics. We don't have time for that. Are they billing at 200,000, at 600,000, a million? Probably only down here, because you just do not have the time for all this. So yeah, I read all these posts, and I think good for you, but shouldn't you be doing some business and placing?
Here's the guy who's saying time is an issue, but don't use automation that's going to make it easier to do lots of work.
Isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
Well, for me, it's 2 different things, you see.
He's singing a song by a Canadian.
Exactly.
I got it. Okay. But you have to be these days. That's kind of old. Okay. What's that? 30 years old now?
Hey, even I know that song.
Okay. I don't know. How old is she now? 50? Okay. Anyway.
She's older than me.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, okay. So let me see. Open rates. I disagree with Super Rich. Okay, this is an interesting one. Does anybody have an issue? What time? We still got 15 minutes left. Anybody got an issue they want to talk about? Nobody? Does nobody have? I imagine that you guys have stuff that you're thinking about all the time, and I have to always come up with everything. Okay, that's all right.
Animal. I mean, for me, there's been a discussion. So I hooked up with another trainer, and one of the major discussions that we've got is how is it possible that so few recruiters, whether it's in-house or in agency, because he trains both, so few recruiters are ready to invest in themselves to up the level of their game. There's just this thing that seems to be this psychological block in recruiters that they say, I don't know, maybe they say, I'm too good, I don't need any more training. But in people in industry, you're taught to continuously evolve, to continuously train. Organizations give people training, but not in the recruitment industry. People don't seem to think it's necessary.
Okay,
and it's amazing.
He does have a bias. He's a trainer. Okay, he's in that business. But how much should people be spending on their own training? Let's say you're a solo recruiter. And let's
Well,
say you're
$1
fairly
million.
new, so you need some training. You don't have years of experience behind you.
Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of these people don't even spend time on free training.
Well, he's been telling us, hasn't he, that you don't have time to do anything. Okay, if you do spend a lot of time on writing a letter, you're going to be down there in the lower levels. Okay, so you've got a bit of a tension here between time time issue.
But recruitment, if you're an agency recruiter and you're starting off, you're going to spend your Saturday morning, but when you're driving around, when you're jogging, whatever it is, with your earplugs in, listening to podcasts to learn. That's how it works.
Okay,
But
but
most
how
people are
much
not
should
doing
they
that.
spend? How much should they spend on trainers like you? Okay, in a year, let's say, or a month. What do you think it's required? Because you said you and this guy you're saying that they should be spending money. They don't realize it. How
Yeah,
much? Maybe that's an issue.
I think agency recruiters should easily be spending between $1,500 and $5,000 a year.
So 1,500 is not that much. 5,000, you're getting up there. Okay, but one placement would cover it, right?
Of course.
Okay. And what if you get with a trainer that you don't really, you think his or her style suits their personality, but maybe not your own?
You're going to check two things. One is indeed what you're just saying, the personality of the trainer, but two, what they're training. There's so many people out there that are just trying to sell things, and you're thinking like, help, that's not going to help people. Or, for example, people saying, I'm going to teach you how to write the perfect email. But that person doesn't want to work that way. It wants to just pick up the phone. So there's a disconnect. So they've got to, students who are interested in becoming better, they've got to think about, what do I need to get to the next level? And then they find people who train exactly that thing.
But you don't necessarily know that. That's the whole thing. You get involved with
you
the
become a
recruiter,
member
and
of
then you've
groups
got
like recruiters online, and you spend time on LinkedIn and you find out what's happening out there. But that's also part of investing in yourself.
I like the way you move your hands. I would like to have that kind of authoritative, I like it when I only go like this. And anyway, but let's say you've engaged a recruiting trainer, and you're not really happy after the first few weeks. How do you tell the trainer, who might be an egomaniac, I don't know, that, you know what, I just don't think this clicks with me? And you don't want to have any bitterness, and you're kind of shy. Okay, see, that's the thing. Maybe you're a bit introverted, and the recruiter trainer is an extrovert. So, the kind of things that he or she could pull off, you don't think you've got the momentum in your innate personality. How do you tell somebody, I don't think we got a match?
Talk about it, because you're going to end up having two situations. Either you were right and it's not the right trainer, or the trainer is actually, because most trainers should be a bit adapted to the fact of teaching psychology, and they will say, okay, I will do something specifically for you. Because at the end of the day, people like me, we want to help people out, and you want these people to progress, and everybody learns in a different way. But you've got to sometimes just tweak this, that, and then that person will find their way and move forward. But
David,
talk about it.
Was David trying to say something before and I cut him off?
No.
No? Okay. Anything else about that right now? Or because we can always come back to that. I find it a very interesting topic. And it wasn't just an ad, okay? Tell me, if you're listening to this show this far in, you want to know stuff like that, okay? You're like me, okay? It's 12:49. We got 10 minutes. From David Marr, people learn by seeing, hearing, and doing. Oh, man, that's so profound. Thanks. He was smart enough to know not to say it because he didn't want me yelling at him, okay? Okay. Your client gives your candidate 6 interviews, okay? Then makes an offer. I can't help but laugh. Then makes an offer 20,000 below the 150 you told the candidate that, they were willing to pay for this thing. Okay. And not only that, they changed the title to something more junior. No. What do you do? What do you do?
Well, baseball bat, machete, riot gun. I hate people who think they can get away with that.
Well, and lots of people defended this. They said the business, they just reassess their needs. And they,
After 6 interviews?
Yeah.
Well, then you know that they have got a serious structural problem when it comes to management skills, organization, strategy.
And interviewing
Oh.
and leveling and job responsibilities. First of all, 6 interviews is ludicrous. Second of
Yeah.
all, if they bring in someone at 150K, I'm assuming they're a senior person, and then they're going to downgrade them to a junior role.
Well,
that is
not junior, but middle
insult.
level, more
Well,
middle level.
That's an
yeah.
insult. And if I'm representing an A player, I'm taking them off the table.
So what do you say to the hiring manager after you've told the candidate, look, I'm sorry, I apologize. I guess this isn't for you. I didn't see this coming myself.
I would
what do you
say,
go-
I would say when we initially presented this candidate, this is what we said, this is what they're looking for.
Mhm.
I said, they're not going to take this offer, so I'm going to take them off the table.
Okay, but yeah, what would you say to, like, we just talked about debriefing the hiring manager on the hiring process. What would you say? This isn't ever going to work. Don't do this to me again.
Yeah, I mean, I would talk about how if you say you're going to pay this and then you're going to backpedal, 20K less, then realistically, don't say 150, say 130, because then you're going to attract.
Well, the
different
point is they
candidates.
didn't know, okay? They didn't know. They changed their mind. Anybody else want to say something?
Animal, this might happen once in every blue moon that you get a situation like this, but it should really be a very, very exceptional situation.
I don't think it's that exceptional for a company moving the goalpost. You think it is?
With 6 interviews, yeah.
Okay.
If
But
you've
what
got
about
one or
this?
two
Yeah.
interviews, yeah, because things are very fluid. But 6 interviews, you've invested a lot of time into
Well,
this.
that's the thing. They had time to change, and maybe there was a reason for those 6 interviews. They weren't exactly sure how to use that person. I read an article this week about Jack Welch, who used to be the CEO of GE, famous guy. And what was his name? Not Cracker Jack, Dynamite Jack or something like that. He had his nickname. Anyway, he said his biggest mistake was choosing his successor. He had a short list of 3 people already working in the company, and he watched them for a year. They knew they were candidates, right? And he picked the wrong guy. He picked the guy who was the best politician, who did the best in the interviews, not the most qualified, the one he liked the most. And he was very sorry about that later on. But my point was, he waited a year to observe these people before he made his selection. That made me think, you know what? If you've got an important job, 2 or 3 interviews, that's not a solid foundation for making a big decision. 6 interviews, it's absurd in this market, but maybe in itself, it's not that crazy. Although Gavin, the trainer, is saying it is, right? Okay, he doesn't want to answer, or he can't hear us again. I don't know.
Because I don't have anything to say. You've gone on a tangent. There's so many.
I did not. Come
Come
on. I gave the example of a master business person. Okay, that's not.
Yeah, but it's so high up there. The vast majority of people are not operating at that level.
Okay. Here's, I guess, the final one. I placed a candidate to quit within my 60. I've got a guarantee for 60 days. Okay. And I will replace someone. Okay. The candidate quit within those 60 days. The client, they said, I don't want to hire anybody to replace her. Okay. So they want me to refund the money. Okay. In my contract, it says I don't refund money. This client is a repeat client. They paid me $283,000 this year. What should I do? Anybody got an idea? Because I have some replies. I know what Rich said. Go ahead. Anybody?
I would say to take on a different search for them and do it.
They have nothing on the go right now. Okay.
Okay, this is my generic answer, not knowing the specific circumstances, but I would say you've done your hours, so you should be paid for it.
Yeah. Okay. Some people said write a check, and I agree. Okay. He made $300,000 from this company. Here's what Rich said. Offer it back in stages of $8,000 as a discount off the next 3 searches. Okay. He said that way they don't lose anything and you don't lose anything and you look like a partner. Okay. And Ivan commented on that. He said, Rich is a genius. Well, I don't think so. Okay. You've got a cash cow there, a golden goose. you want to kiss ass a little for them. You want to please them. Give them back that money. Okay. Now, Rich knows better than me. If you had to
So the fee
trust
was only
between two people, let me
24,000?
finish. If you had to decide between Rich and me, choose him. I'll say that myself, but I don't agree with him. Now, Gavin, go ahead.
So the fee was only 24,000?
I don't know what it was.
No, because
Oh,
three
yeah, I
times
guess, yeah,
8,000
he said 3 times 8. Yeah, you're right. 24,000.
Oh, okay. I was expecting something much bigger. If it's such a small percentage of 280,000, you do not want to piss that client off. Then I'm
Okay. Yeah,
rephrasing my
24,000
opinion.
is not coffee money, is it? It's a real
No, but
money.
it's less than 10%.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so you agree with me, in other words, right?
So then that's what you got to think about. Then I would say that yes, one, you should be paid for the time you've served. Two, you want that client to continue coming to you. So the solution is to find some kind of a way whereby you're treated fairly, but you're showing a gesture towards the client. Rich's proposal, yeah, it's original. It ties
Okay.
them into you. But
Is he
if you've got that in
agreeing
each
with Rich
case,
or
is that
me?
necessary?
Is he agreeing with Rich or me? I can't tell.
I think
Okay.
he's agreeing with Rich.
Okay, I advised everyone to agree with Rich, but I don't agree. Okay, just give that money back, make them happy, and you know what they'll say. I remember once I was placing, this was quite a while ago, a business machine that I don't even know exists anymore. I recruited a sales manager, and I used to check. We never talk about checking references. I used to do very thorough reference checks before the offer came, and there was something about him that made me a bit worried. And I told the client, I mean, I really wanted this placement, and I told the client, I said, this scares me. I want to make you really aware of it. And she really appreciated, she hired the guy anyway, but she really appreciated that. So sometimes, like you're saying, they will appreciate your gestures. That didn't cost me. I was risking the placement, okay, which was a large one. So in this case, there is an element of similarity. Sometimes it's better to give up some money and make them like you. At least I think that.
Yeah, but you'd never want to be taken for granted either. So you gotta.
But
It's a fine
if
line.
you're doing a contingent search, you have to be ready to lose money, okay? Right? Spend hours, like you said, without making any money. Sometimes that's going to happen, right?
Absolutely, that's the nature of contingency.
Okay, well, you know what? I had another question, but I'm not going to ask it. We're at the end of the show. David M. Marr, thank you for coming on your pre-Thanksgiving day. I guess I'm going to guess he takes off Friday as well. Thursday is their Thanksgiving. We have Thanksgiving here in Canada. Apparently in the 19th century, it was the same day as the Americans had it, but now we got smarter. It's in mid-October when the weather's still nice and it's not a big deal. Do you have Thanksgiving over in England? No?
No, Europe,
Okay.
no.
But I am going to express my gratitude to both of you for showing. I enjoyed having a chat with you. Okay, you know what? And you've posed very well. Usually I'm going to put your picture on one of the, feature you on one of the postings I put up when I post this show, and lots of people are way back here, but you're up here. I always get a good picture, and you went like this at one time, so it was kind of an interesting picture. I'm going to use that one, I promise. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.